We then get the video package to hype Lesnar and Goldberg, starting with Lesnar and Goldberg's confrontation backstage at the Royal Rumble. Lesnar then attacking Goldberg during the Rumble match, allowing Angle to eliminate him. Lesnar's match with Guerrero at No Way Out, where Austin gave Goldberg a front row ticket. Goldberg spearing Lesnar in the match, helping Guerrero to win the title. Lesnar on his knees begging for somebody to give him Goldberg. Vince saying nobody could contain this match. Austin then encourages the match to happen, and Vince makes Austin the referee. Lesnar then attacks Austin and Raw. Austin invades SmackDown, and he and Brock Lesnar have a brawl. Now, what I will say about this video package is the one thing it made me feel was very, very sad that Austin and Brock Lesnar couldn't have a match, because I really enjoyed their confrontation on SmackDown. I thought it was excellent. And I was just like, oh, come on, give us Austin and Lesnar.
But also, Austin takes an F5, which obviously, he'd retired at this point, like for health conditions. I was like, it's a big move to take for someone who's got such bad neck issues. The other weird thing, though, in that promo is that Brock Lesnar begs Vince McMahon, literally gets on his knees and begs for a match. And I was like, that's weird. I can't, given the way that he's been kind of portrayed and booked and, everything since his return, that seems really, really strange.
I wonder whether or not at the time Lesnar was leaving, obviously, or even if he wasn't leaving, the point is that maybe at that time he didn't have the negotiating or the bargaining power that he would later have. And after that, pretty much Lesnar, I'm sure, okays everything that they give him. So I don't imagine he'd be doing that anymore.
No. What I thought was very telling on this, because obviously I've heard many stories that Goldberg wasn't well liked at this time and basically wasn't liked through this whole run that he had. After the initial stages, he is barely in this video, and it's a Lesnar-Austin feud, isn't it? They're basically showing, and like you said, Tinky, I would have eaten that up.
Yeah, it would be great.
Lovely.
So is that match next? It's Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg, a near 14-minute match with Steve Austin as a special guest referee. This one ends when Goldberg hits a jackhammer and gets the pin. After the match, the fans sing "Na Na Na" goodbye to Lesnar. They are clued into the fact that Lesnar is off after this match. Lesnar flips the bird at the fans, and Austin stunners him. Goldberg then gets in the ring again, but fans boo Goldberg, so Austin decides to toast Goldberg and stun him too. Austin, the retired wrestler, is standing tall at the end of this match with two wrestlers who are both leaving the company. Talk about a lame duck match, if there ever was one. Really weirdly, my memory of this match going in was that Goldberg was leaving. Everyone knew Goldberg had his contract. He hadn't signed a new contract. He wasn't interested in signing a new contract. He'd had his year. He was done. And I remember before the show not knowing about Lesnar leaving, because it only really came out sort of 2-3 days or maybe a week beforehand. And at the time, I wasn't in the practice of checking the internet regularly to see what was going on in the inner workings of the business, mainly because wrestling wasn't on my mind as much at this period. I was at university. I wasn't watching it, every week. And I was really shocked when Goldberg won, because I was so convinced that it was already a lame duck match, because Lesnar was surely going to beat him because Goldberg was on his way out. And then to find out Lesnar was going as well was just mind-blowing. So that was my main memory of it. What did we think of the match? Let's start with you, old man.
The Austin comes down on his little ATV, having a lovely time, then parks it in a very inconvenient spot. Like, the arena's just not big enough for him to do this. I don't quite know why they've insisted on him riding it down. Probably for the pop. This is for probably 6 minutes of the 13:48, embarrassing and excruciating. Because obviously they know what's going to happen, and these two guys would have probably told Austin what's going to happen. And they start working to basically walk around and get "You Sold Out" chants, the little goodbye song, and then some Austin chants, and then they do a collar and elbow tie-up, and it lasts a good 45 seconds, I reckon. At the end of which, Goldberg is somehow sweating profusely. I don't quite know how. He's literally walked around and then done that. And then they have a little bit of physicality. There's some holds. I think the jackhammer that Goldberg hits for the win looks phenomenal. I will say that. I was like, really good. Lesnar obviously gets a real tough rap, especially for, I think, a period during his now long return that he's been part of WWE for not really being very generous with anything. He obviously helps out with the jackhammer and it looks great. It's all about the aftermatch shenanigans though, isn't it? It's all about Austin stunning both of them out of the company in effect. And I just thought, why they go ahead with it? I know they're advertising it, but backstage, this must have been an absolute train wreck to have watched. They managed to get the crowd going by not doing anything. They then kill the crowd when they are doing stuff because they don't care. Then there's the finish. Then they're waiting for Austin to do the stunners, and then it's done. And I'm just like, oh, this is awful. I get the feeling that this was going to be the start of the momentum through to the end of the show, and it doesn't work at all.
I will go through I'll read out my notes verbatim.
Here we go.
Strange seeing Brock in pants.
Oh, yeah.
Big, you sold out chants that the comms don't really acknowledge. The next note says they had to acknowledge the you sold out chants because there's so many of them. They're just staring at each other. Huge Austin chants. So boring. Watched a thread of Yaya Touré's best goals on Twitter. God, this match is crap. Goldberg wins with a jackhammer. Those are my notes for this. And then the actual really good stuff happens, which is the 2 stunners. And Brock flipping the crowd is brilliant, and it makes the stunner even better. And then Austin's stunner in Goldberg is absolutely perfect. It's the best thing that could have happened in that situation, and it almost made the previous 14 minutes worth it. Not quite, but it almost made up for it because it's so good when he started Goldberg.
I'll tell you what, though, Goldberg pretty much no-sells it. He lies down for about 4.5 seconds and then sits up. And I was a bit like, I'll bet Austin backstage was ready to kill him.
But ultimately, I think this is probably the worst match I've seen on this Odyssey we've been on so far.
It's a rubbish match, but I found it fascinating to watch because I couldn't get into their heads. I was like, what I don't get is what I'm trying to understand is why it was like this. Like, why? Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, I understand the fans are going to be booing them and they're not going to react in the way that perhaps they hope them to, but you'd have thought Lesnar and Goldberg just go out there and go, right, well, let's just have 7-8 minute match. You chuck me around, I'll chuck you around, we'll get out, all done. It will be a dull affair, but it won't be notable. Instead, though, it's almost like nobody trusts anybody else. It's like Lesnar's going off to do his NFL stuff. Goldberg's basically decided he wants to retire. I mean, I know he came back, but that's effectively what's happening here. And as a consequence, it almost feels like neither of them want to get hurt. So they're just like, look, it's really odd. It's like they don't trust one another to actually have any moves against one another. And they don't trust each other to not make the other look weak either. Like they're trying to protect an aura that doesn't even matter because neither of them are going to be a wrestler tomorrow.
I think there's an element of that. I also think there's an element of Goldberg doesn't know how to do a match that's longer than 2 minutes long. And I don't think Brock Lesnar he was still very good, but I still don't think he's at the level to be able to truly lead a match against a Goldberg either. So I think there's an element of them just not really knowing what to do. We've seen another match. I can't remember, you might have to remind me what it was. We saw another match in which Austin was the guest referee. It was in 98 and 99.
Undertaker versus Kane at Judgment Day.
That's right. And again, the same thing happens. As soon as you put Austin in as the referee, he sucks all of the heat off of the other wrestlers as well. So there's throwing those 3 things on top of what you said, Tiki, about there potentially being like a level of distrust amongst them, I think just basically makes for an absolute car crash of a match.
I just feel like it's possible that people were worried about these two having a match with each other in terms of being able to lead it or being able to work it, but WWE usually, and they're smart enough to do this, would just have someone work with them for a couple of weeks before and just script it out, and that's what I don't get. Like, I could understand if this was a listless match, they go in for 6-7 minutes, it's just move, there's no real rhyme or reason, but they get in and get out and it's done. It's just the way this match goes I find bizarre and fascinating. I just don't really get what's going through their heads. You
plant that seed of Austin and Lesnar and that tension, and in my mind, if you know Goldberg's going, you play on that tension, don't you? Like Tommy said, you ain't going to get 30 minutes out of Goldberg anyway, regardless. Like, he's not, especially at this point. Now, I've heard him interviewed. He said, like, his confidence at this point was so low in terms of what he could do in the ring because of how he'd basically been murdered and buried by Triple H. But like you said, just do a 6-7 minute thing, get in, get out, get paid, do it safely. And that was what you said, Tiki. That was what hit me. It's like, they don't trust each other. They don't trust each other to do anything, and whereas you just get a fucking nerve hold on.
I tell you what's a shame as well, though, is that about 5 minutes into the match, they finally actually do something. Goldberg does a military press into a spine buster, and in that moment, you're like, this could be a great match, because these two can do great high impact power moves, and they look bloody good when they do it. This is the vision of this match, that they're going to have these two really high impact power guys, but they just fill it with so much crap in between and so much nothing in between and so much confusion in between that it's just completely lost. It was good that they got their kind of chance to redo this stuff later in their careers, and they probably did it in a much better way, which was just short, sharp bursts of matches that allowed them to do a couple of power moves. But I think if they had both been staying with the company after this, we could have had something pretty special here. Actually, as we've been going through this, all of these shows, I've grown to quite like Goldberg's work. If I'm honest, I think he's a really decent. I think if you can give him the right circumstances, and I understand what you're saying, Lesnar was also still quite green. I mean, he's 3-4 years into his career at this point, but we've seen how WWE can script wrestlers through matches and make them really great. See Hogan Warrior, for example, of that at WrestleMania 6. I don't see why that wouldn't have been the case here.
Interestingly, it's funny you say, actually, because you said that obviously Brock was green only 2 or 3 years in it. The reality is, looking over like the span of a lot of wrestlers' careers, Goldberg was still reasonably green at that point as well, because he would have been 7-8 years. Most.
Yeah, but most of those years not wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the years just going in, doing 2-3 pound, a spear and a jackhammer, and his sidekick, and that's about it, isn't it? So it's not really a surprise the match was a disaster.
No, totally. I mean, you can, on Cage Match, you can get a listing of every single match an individual's had by just going onto their profile. And most wrestlers have got like 30 odd pages of matches, at least, each with 100 matches on. Goldberg's got 4 pages from his very first match right the way through to his last match. And that career spans over 20 years.
I'll tell you what, his entrance goes on, doesn't it, on this? He must, I think he starts his entrance in New Jersey. And then basically walks over. Dun, 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 dun.